wonderful, amazing, incredible, fantastic failure coach. Oh, what? What a horrible thing to say. Oh, trust me. When you're done with this video, you're going to hear the word failure very different. Oh, man. Mama. Failure. What a charged word. What a power-packed word. What a word that we hate. I know. As coaches, you're trained. We're trained to, failure is wonderful. Failure is glory. Well, notice that reaction that you might have had when I first, just moments ago, called you a failure coach. You probably didn't go, yeah, I am a failure coach. How wonderful. No, you didn't celebrate and embrace that. Failure is a charged word. And as much as we know the power of failure, and we're going to get to that in just a minute, but as much as we know that power, recognize that our clients have a very, very different association with that word. Failure is bad. Failure in our survival reptilian brain, failure is equivalent to die. Game over. That's it. That's it. We spend our entire lives avoiding and resisting and preventing failure. And we try to predict and we try to anticipate and look ahead and manage and manipulate everything to make sure we don't fail at anything. Big failures or little failures. And so our programming is failure is bad. Some failure is. But that doesn't make it a bad thing. It's just sometimes failure is frustrating or sad or disappointing. In the coaching world, I've failed tons of times. I failed my certification exam. I failed becoming an MCC. I failed so many other ways. I'm not proud of them, but I am. What? Look at you and your journey. Look at all the fumbles and the fall downs and the failures that you've had. Look at all the sample sessions you did, that you have done, and how many of them actually turned out to be clients. I'm going to guess you don't have a 100% track record from that. You failed at getting clients. How many times have you worked with somebody and they stopped showing up? They just disappeared on you. Now, that could be for many, many reasons, but the bottom line is you failed at keeping this client. You failed. See, you look at all the other ways that you failed. You failed. You maybe started doing coaching and you didn't get, you didn't lock in payment. Maybe you failed at I don't know, anything. Making enough money to pay your bills, keeping your workload consistent. I mean, as a coach, you have failed tons of times. Now let's talk about you as a person, right? How many failures have you had in your life? How many times have you tried something and it didn't work out that way and it fell apart? And I know you're gonna justify this and go, oh yeah, but failure is where we learn. Well, of course it is. Of course it is. That's part of the point. To know that every single time you failed at something, you learned from it. But that's not actually the point of this video. That's an extra bonus thing. I mean, every time I failed my coaching exams, I learned, oh, what did I do wrong? What was I missing? What was not here? Where do I need to get stronger? Oh, okay. All the coaches that I work with who have come to me saying, Ben, I failed at this and I struggled at that and I fell apart here and I missed that and I didn't get there and I failed as a coach. Come to me and I'm here to help you get back up and learn what you need to learn. And throughout your entire life, When you failed that math test, you learned how to do the math problems better. When you failed this other thing, when you failed at some sports thing, you learned how to get better. Where I'm pointing, the side learning on this is that yes, with that failure comes great learning. But here's the problem. If we are designed to constantly resist and avoid and prevent failure, and failure is a bad thing and doom, I promise you, you will not learn. And that will be wasted. That will be absolutely all that rich, powerful, abundant learning. If you are so set on failure is not going to happen, I can't have failure because failure is bad and embarrassing and horrible and doom and gloom, then guaranteed you will not get any learning and you will be destined to repeat that agony. Now, this may not be you, but it is your clients. Because your clients have a very different relation. I remember I said, we as coaches, we've learned that failure is a place of good and learning and all that. Our clients don't know that. Our clients are living in the world of failure, bad, simple. It's that simple. Failure, doom, gloom, dead. So of course they're going to work hard to override it and prevent it. And failure is not an option, and we can't have that. Oh no, I can't fail. So what do we do as coaches? Well, if you're one of those coaches that has removed failure from the language, and we're gonna call them obstacles or opportunities, even better, or we're gonna give it a different name, maybe not. Because all you're doing is reinforcing failure bad. So we're going to pretend this is something else. But I promise you, your client, no matter what you call it, it's still bad. Just gave it a fancy new name that feels fresher and nicer and safer. Failure is a failure. What we need to do is help our clients learn. We need to learn too that failure, we get to have a different relationship with the word failure. So one of the ways, this just comes to the point of this, is not just one of the ways, certainly, is, as we've learned, is to look at the learnings that got from this. Oh my goodness, because I failed, I learned. I mean, this is the simple truth. I failed my first certification exam many years ago because there were traps and default behaviors and ways that I was handling my coaching that hadn't gotten spotted by my coach or my supervisor or trainers or anything like that were preparing me for my test. And then these habits came out, I would not have noticed them. And the same was true when I was going for the other levels, including MCC. So there was great learning, but it was not pleasant and wonderful at the time. That's where I'm pointing to. Yet, the learning is how we follow up from that initial feeling of failure. But not a single person, including you, is excited to fail. Your first initial reaction, mine too, is that when I fail at something, I resist it, I hate it, I avoid it, I deny it, I do everything possible to not accept it. And then I don't learn. That's the first moment. The second moment is when I can stop and go, okay, this is what happened. This is where I fell apart. This is what I need to learn. Okay? But there's more. Because we're actually, if we look at what is failure, failure is I tried to do something and it didn't happen. That's it. I ran a race and I was trying to get first and I didn't get there first across the finish line, and so I failed at winning the race. Or as we see in sports all the time, right? My objective is to go and hit that ball, throw that ball, dunk that ball, do something with a ball, and I'm going to do it better than anybody else, or better than the opposing team, or better than whoever I'm up against. And if I do it, I win and succeed. And if I don't do it, I fail. Same in business. We have a projected financial goal. We have goals. We have everything. And if we hit that goal, we succeed. And if we don't hit that goal, we fail. Simple. That's all that it is. Now, let's take a look at all the other stuff that got lost along the way. That's what I'm talking about. See, we put our attention on the one thing that we wanted to do, and then we didn't do it, and then we failed. And as a result, we have erased and wiped out everything else that was part of that experience. I'm not even talking about the learning. I'm talking about the successes that did happen. Now, you may be familiar with this and showing up elsewhere. I'm not saying I invented this. I'm saying I'm pointing it out to you so that you can wield failure a little differently with your client. And this happens with clients all the time. And this happened just recently, which is why it's now in my forefront. I was just working with a client who was very frustrated and looked at her marriage because she got divorced. So I failed at marriage. Just like I failed at keeping my job for a long period of time. I failed at any relationship that had an end. Oh, I failed at that relationship. And we take it all on. So this was just happened to be a marriage conversation that ended in divorce. And I said, okay, wait a minute. So what exactly did you fail? Let's pinpoint the failure. What did you actually fail at? You didn't fail in marriage. You failed in having a long-term marriage that lasted 50 plus years with a bunch of happiness and smiles and rainbows. That's what you failed in. You didn't fail at your job. You failed at keeping this job for 50 plus years, and then you got to retire with a pension and a gold watch, and it was smiles and happy and rainbows throughout the whole time. Really pinpoint what is the failure. And if you can pinpoint it, you'll actually start to recognize there's so much more. This is just one little teeny thing that didn't work out the way you had thought, expected, hoped, planned. But look at all the other things. Yeah, this is where the learning does get to come in, but this also opens up more. How did you succeed? So I asked this coach, I asked this person this marriage question. I said, great. So you failed at keeping a 50-year marriage with, holding hands and smiles and rainbows and all of that stuff. But how did you succeed? Well, clearly you succeeded more than a 7-year marriage or a 6-year marriage or a 5-year marriage. If you were married 8, 9, 10 years, you succeeded on that scale. You also succeeded in getting divorced, in getting out of that marriage that was unfulfilling and horrible and miserable or frustrating or stifling or whatever it was that was the reason that you got out. You got out because you succeeded in getting out. Now, maybe that was turned on you. You weren't the chooser. How did you succeed there? Well, sure. You didn't succeed in keeping that other person happy and wonderful and mesmerized by you to stay married that whole time, but you succeeded in other ways, including growing in different directions, including discovering new parts of yourself that needed more and wanted more, including so much more. Every failure has 1,000 successes built into it. We just aren't looking at it. If you really take a take a moment and you pay attention. Look at something. Try this with a light failure, right? I failed at this. I was trying to make a dinner. I was trying this new recipe, and boy, was it a massive failure. Now, great. See, you can look at the learning. What's the learning from this? Well, I learned to pay closer attention to not confusing salt and sugar. That's a big mistake. So I learned there. But what was the success? Oh, well, the success was, aside from mixing the salt and sugar, I actually managed to follow the recipe really well. And it was a new recipe that I was not familiar with. And I actually was trying a couple of new things within that. And I also, there was a success in the planning. Now, there were a couple of failures there in the paying attention to details, so I need to learn how to pay closer attention to the details. But there was a success here. And quite frankly, the main dish didn't work out well, but the side dish, ooh, that actually turned out really nicely. I could make it better, though. Not just how would you improve it and get better, and what did you learn from it, which is incredibly powerful, but it's also where and how was this a success? Reframe that to your clients. Now, I'm going to let you know, if they're sitting in their big poopy puddle of failure, they're not going to be able to answer this at all. Because a failure is what a failure does, and a failure does what a failure is. That's how a failure works. But the powerful self, their brilliant, amazing inner self that is wise and strong, the one that you typically work with in your coaching, I hope so, because that's the one who's going to be able to answer this so easily. Next time you fail in your coaching, like a real mess, like a client just didn't go anywhere. Maybe the client said, I'm done, I'm out of here. I don't want to renew. I don't want to continue on. Or it just didn't feel like a magical session. That's okay. Look to the learning, but also look to the success. What did work? See, the learning is about what didn't work that you could do better. We're looking at what did work. How did you succeed? I promise you, if you start doing that, you're going to transform your whole world of failure into abundance and magnificence. For every failure, there's 1,000 successes that we just aren't noticing and that we've given up and threw away. Oh, you're missing. Play around with that. It's a bit longer, but I really wanted to make sure I got this point in because I want you to really play around with this and discover it. And by the way, if you try this with your clients and it fails, you succeeded in trying it in the first place. Oh my goodness, how amazing. So, I don't know what. I hope this has inspired you. I hope this is great. Please keep coming back for more. Contact me. I'm happy to help you. And until then, I wish you a wonderful, and I know you're going to get this now, I wish you a wonderful failure coaching. Yes! Bam!